Visitor, you are about to embark on a journey of discovery through the rich and fascinating history of classical Greece. You'll become fully immersed in the painstakingly detailed world built for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which you are free to explore at your own pace, without any danger or time pressure. For a directed experience, take one of the many guided tours curated by prominent historians and archaeologists. Along the way, exchange words with some of Greece's most famous historical persons. The classical Greece you are about to explore is at the peak of its glory. This period is synonymous with grand accomplishments of the physical and the mental. Architectural marvels which still stand today dot its landscape, while towering achievements in philosophy, political systems, and art still influence our modern society in profound ways. We hope you become engrossed in the dazzling riches of ancient Greece and welcome you to your visit.
Greetings, Wanderer, and welcome to the Acropolis, the shining jewel of Athens. My name is Aspasia. Though I am not originally from Athens, I have climbed to the top of its social ladder using my wit and intellect. I've even earned the love of Pericles, one of the most powerful men in the city. The mind truly is a beautiful thing. Personally, I think the Acropolis is one of, if not the, greatest place in all of Greece. Though, considering it was the project of my partner, Pericles, I may be a touch biased. The Acropolis of Athens is a bastion of art and culture worthy of the gods themselves. Within this citadel, you will find many important sacred buildings, as well as some of the most magnificent art in all of Greece. You are in for a very enlightening visit. When you're done, come find me, and we can discuss the things you have seen. Farewell for now.
The Acropolis has gone through many changes in its long history. It began as a simple rock, was settled as early as the Neolithic period, and then became a fortress in the Mycenaean period. Stone buildings started appearing in the 7th century BCE. But the famous structures whose ruins remain visible today date mainly from a period of construction in the 5th century BCE. The location of the Acropolis is closely tied with Athens' foundation myth. Supposedly, it was the site where Athena and Poseidon competed for the city's patronage. This connection gave the Acropolis a sacred aura, and it was considered the religious heart of the city.
μοίρασα των περιδεραίων της θυγατρός μου.
Πράγματι το παραδείγμα των έργων αυτού είναι αντιβάλλον με το δέον γενέστε στην άσυλο αλλά της θέμητος ναός και στην Πανεπιστήμια.
Είναι ανταφή εν επιχείρημα 2 οι όροι. Γίγνωστο και το επίσταστο. Αλίστας τραγωδίας
και αναπόδραστες εκβάσεις έτοιμες λιπτέ επιτέμιδη.
Η τραγωδία κινείται μεταξύ 3 βαθμών.
The Temple of Athena Nike was built on the remains of old fortifications from the Mycenaean era. Worship at the temple can be traced back to the 6th century BCE, but the building itself was destroyed during the Greco-Persian Wars a century later. It was rebuilt during the Peloponnesian War. Given that the name Athena Nike roughly means Athena of victory, it was likely constructed in the hopes that Athens would win the war. Unusually, the temple depicts historical scenes of battles against the Persians instead of the more mythologically inclined art of other Greek buildings. The temple's priestess was chosen randomly among the Athenians and received a salary of 50 drachmae annually, along with skins and trophies from sacrificed animals.
The
Acropolis was built up over a long period, due in no small part to its partial destruction during the Greco-Persian Wars. It was in the 5th century BCE, though, that the Acropolis received its most significant improvements. This period was an extremely prosperous time for Athens, both financially and culturally. With a booming economy bolstered by trade and the Lavrion silver mines, Pericles, the leader of Athens, financed a huge project to rebuild the citadel. He enlisted the help of renowned artists, like the sculptor Phidias, as well as the architects Iktinos and Callicrates. Together, they erected buildings like the Parthenon and the Propylaea Gateway. Pericles' goal was to make the Acropolis into a glorious monument to the gods and to mortal Athenians.
Είναι ασταθή εν επιχείρημα 2 οι όροι. Γίγνωσε την άλλον φέρει ναρτήματα.
Ίσιο της χίσου στα σχήρα. Κατά.
Ότι ούν επιθυμείτε ο άντρες και γυναίκες δύναμε φέρει νυχή. Μη πιστεύετε
Σώμεθα το παραδείγματι των έργων αυτούν είναι αντιβάλλομεν το δέον γενέστε εις δεινά συλλογισμών, αλλό της θέμηδος ναός που και στη πανήγυρη.
Είναι επιχείρημα οι όροι συζωητή υπογείτρωση.
Ίσως ο γύρος καρδίας πήραν τη σύμφη, ενώ η λάμπα του καμίνα, ή ίσως ο νέος
και μη θα στιμάσει μάστε.
Μόνον όταν το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστικών, τότε δύνατα εγκερδάνε εν ζητία. Ανατρέπουν
Behind the Propylaea was the giant bronze statue of Athena Promachos, or Athena who fights on the front lines. That name was reflected in the spear and shield the statue held in its hands. It was erected in the mid-5th century BCE by the artist Phidias. According to an inscription, it took 9 years to make and cost almost 500,000 drachmae. At approximately 10 meters tall, the statue was apparently so large that Pausanias claimed its helmet and spear tip could be seen from the sea near Cape Sunion, 60 kilometers away. The ornamentation on the statue's shield was engraved by the metalsmith Mies.
Διαφθείρει τους νέους και ούτι καταμαλτακίζονται. Εκπλήσει, αποφέρεται το πυρί του ατόπου υποθάλποντι λέγει. Ιδέο άνθρωπος και ιδέο δέον πράξει.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαότιμε, τεχνών μήτυρ πολύολβε, πολυλίστη λυτήρα κακών, ιστρούσα βρωτών ψυχάς. Σύ θεά, δώσ' ειρήνην πολύολβων και χώρων ηθικίαν, επεβόλβησιν εν ώρες, κλαυκόφε βρεσίκεφνε, πολυλίστη βασίλεια, ο αιώνομος.
Πυρίπολε και τελετάρχα,
Καλούμε
Θεόν
σε
πάτερ,
Μάκα, Πολιώνη με περίπολε και τελετάρχα, Θεός Πάτερ, Ιδέ και Ιέ, σκηνήθηκε, κουρεδημάτων, Ποτριόκοσμος και το κομμόν,
Μεγαλώνει με και πολιώνει με.
Το τραγουδοποιό. Τραγουδοποιός έστηκε πολιώνει με.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαότιμε.
The Araphoroi were young girls between the ages of 7 and 11 who were in charge of special rites. A list of 4 girls was drafted by the Assembly of Citizens, from which the High Magistrate, the Archon Basileus, chose 2 to serve as Araphoroi for the year. The girls lived in a house on the Acropolis. They were in charge of carrying sacred objects and weaving the peplos of Athena. The peplos was a sacred robe offered to Athena during Panathenea, a festival held in her honor.
Το Odyssey, το γίγνωσι και το επίσταστη. Σύγκυριση, αλλά επίσταστη. Πρόπο επιτυγχάνεται.
Εν μόνον πράγμα τελείψουν με τα λόγου εξήγησης των πουλήσεων ζητήματος ποινός και αναπόδραστες εκβάσεις έτοιμες ληφτέ ετηθέμενοι.
Τραγωδία εκτίθεται μεταξύ δύο βαθμών. Επίσης συνεχίζεται όντως τα προσδόκια του πελάτη και θεμελιώστε τα δεδομένα. Και μετά
Τι παριστάνει το άλγος αυτό. Τι αλλού ευρίσκεται η γνώση η μη πάρεξ ότι ο εχέφρον ουκ και πενεκίζει πλασμών και οδυρμών αλεύει τα παιδεία.
The Erechtheion was an atypical temple. It was dedicated not only to Athena Polias, but also to Kekrops, the mythical founder of Athens, his son Erechtheos, and even Poseidon, the sea god who challenged Athena for possession of the city. The temple was divided into sections. The eastern part housed a statue dedicated to Athena, while the western section jointly belonged to Poseidon and Erechtheos. Meanwhile, King Kekrop's grave was believed to be under the caryatid porch. Under the temple was a crypt that was said to contain the sacred snakes of Athena. The snakes may have had a sweet tooth because the priestesses of Athena allegedly fed them honey cakes.
Τι συνέβη μόλις?
Πρώτη και ληστεία, ρημονίτης και βρωτών ελπίς. Ελθέ, η κατέχεις ωραίων δρυμούς, ελθέ θεά σώτηρα, άγους ακαλούς καρπούς και γέης ειρήνην τε αρετήν, καλυπλόκαμον με θυγίαν και ω θεά εύδρο με πέμπτης. Πιέστη η πίστη. Είμαι το σου το προσδοκεί.
Μόνο όταν το επιχείρημα δομείται πιστοποιών, τότε δίνεται αληθιασάνε. Ανατρέχομενοι στους τρέχοντες και τόπος τάφους στένικες, πίσω από πλέον.
Και κόρο κόλπου ελίστη πήρα κακόν, εις τρούσα πρωτών ψυχάς.
Καλούμε σε μάκαρ πολιώνυμε, Πυρήπολε και τελετάρχα.
Πυρήπολε και τελετάρχα, Θεόν Πάτερ, Δέκαιε.
Επικαλούμε σε μάκαρ πολιώνυμε,
Λέγω έμαθα.
Πυρήπολε και τελετάρχα. Θεόν Πάτερ, Δέκαιε. Και χοροπτών εφυλακτών της λειτουργίας.
Πήρα κακόν, εις τρούσα πρωτών ψυχάς.
Ήκουσα την ευθύντα αυτή και το πρώτο.
Παστέονση εν αγωνιάν.
Μεγαλώνει με χαρά.
Ελθέ, η κατέχεις ωραίων δρυμούς, ελθέ, θεά, σώπια, άκουσα τους καρπούς, από την σημάλη πέρα, ποτέ, λοκαμορφέ, φιλία, θεά, ελθρό, τη δεσπέρα της ωραίων και παλαζόσους, και άλλους της πιο κάπους.
The Parthenon is one of the most well-known buildings in the world and an enduring symbol of ancient Greek civilization. While it is located on the Acropolis, the building is not a traditional temple. It was built by the sculptor Phidias and the architects Callicrates and Ictinus as a great monument to the glory of the city of Athens. That glory is evident in its many carvings. One of the most carved monuments in Greek architecture, the Parthenon's decorations depict several mythological scenes. These include the birth of Athena, her fight against Poseidon for the patronage of Athens, the gods' battle with the giants, and the procession of the great Panathenaea. The Parthenon's inner chamber, or cella, contained a massive statue of Athena that was considered to be one of the sculptor Phidias's greatest masterpieces. The statue was chryselephantine, a combination of gold and ivory. To justify the steep cost of its construction, Pericles told Athenians that the statue was a gold reserve which could be disassembled in times of economic distress. The cella also allegedly contained a pool whose main purpose was to control the room's humidity, which helped preserve the statue's ivory.
Enjoy your visit. I will see you soon.
Athens' treasury was located in the Parthenon, where it was believed to be protected by Athena herself. The treasury contained objects of great value, acquired from different conquests, as well as a mass of minted silver coins and various offerings to Athena. Pericles also decided to move the entirety of the Delian League's treasure to the Parthenon in 454 BCE. This was a great testament to Athens' power over the rest of Greece. The riches were divided into two parts: the Demosia, which belonged to the city, and the Hiera Cremata, which was dedicated to the goddess and only used for religious purposes.
Κατέχεις ωραίων κρυμούς. Πρόμεθα τα παραδείγματα των έργων αυτού, να αντιβάλλουμε στο δέον.
Έδειξε ότι η Νίξ ούτε λέθη ποτέ εκεί άνω. Πάρα δυο κολοστά. Το πώς η αυτή είναι κρατοχή.
Η τραγωδία διαφθείρει τους νέους και ούτε καταμαλθακίζουν. Επειδή αποφέρεται το πυρήνιο ανθρώπου. Είναι ο άνθρωπος και είναι το νέο πράγμα. Η ακατάσταση λογικού νου. Ο λογικός νους αντίκειται την τραγωδία. Και
And what did you think of the Acropolis? It truly is quite something, isn't it? A sacred sanctuary and an architectural marvel, all in one. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Very well. On to the next tour.
Welcome, traveler, to the ruins of Mykine. My name is Herodotus, and I am a traveler from Halikarnassus. I retrace the cause of various events, such as wars and great calamities. I describe what I see and record what I'm told, all with the aim of providing a better understanding of why these things occur. Look for me to introduce you to many sites. It is humbling to stand in the remnants of such a great civilization. Looking at these ruins, I am reminded that the past is never as far behind us as we think. These are the ruins of Mykine, center of the old Mykinian civilization. It was home to great warriors and heroes. In many ways, places like Athens and Sparta stand on the shoulders of its accomplishments. This tour will take you through its ruins and introduce you to its most important monuments, revealing its history in the process. I hope you enjoy yourself. I'll be waiting for you at the end of your visit.
The Mycenaean civilization flourished in the Late Bronze Age between 1600 and 1200 BCE. During this period, it was mainly located in the Peloponnese and central Greece. Mycenaeans were known for exploring distant lands. Notably, they battled the Hittite allied city of Walusa in a conflict that was believed to be the inspiration for Homer's Trojan War. But the Mycenaean people didn't only travel to fight. They learned much from their neighbors, the Minoans of Crete, such as how to write syllabic script on clay tablets. Such tablets provide evidence that Mycenaeans spoke an early form of Greek. They also tell of how great Mycenaean kings ruled over their warriors from opulent palaces in places like Mycenae. Thebes and Knossos. The entrance to Agamemnon's citadel, or the Lion Gate, is one of the most iconic monuments in Mycenae. It is impressive for both its height and for the intimidating rendering on its relief, which depicts two lions standing on either side of a column. Unfortunately, the lions' heads, which were presumably made of a precious metal or higher quality stone, have been lost to time. The gate was most likely meant to greet a triumphant king returning home from successful military campaigns and to awe foreign visitors. When these shafts were discovered by archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann in 1876, he believed the 6 gold-filled graves to be connected with the family of the great king Agamemnon, even going so far as to proclaim a gold mask he found within to be the death mask of Agamemnon. However, this was refuted by later excavations, which showed that the 19 bodies buried in the shafts dated back to a few hundred years before Agamemnon was even born. In fact, at the time of the body's burial, the Lion Gate and the citadel walls had not even been built yet. It's estimated that the people in the graves were members of the first Mycenaean dynasty. The graves later became a place of worship for Mycenaean kings, who raised walls to protect them. These walls helped preserve several incredible artifacts, including women's jewelry, death masks, and masterfully crafted weapons. By 1250 BCE, Mycenae was at the height of its power, and its living quarters and workshops were numerous. Houses were built everywhere, from the top of the palace's hill near the king's residence, to the slopes and terraces within the walls, to the nearby hills outside the citadel. At one point, the citadel's walls even had to be enlarged to make room for more quarters. The people who lived inside the citadel were those with high status in either the military, religious, or administrative sectors of the kingdom. This is reflected by the ceramic and metal vessels inside the houses, as well as their painted plastered walls. A traveler seeking an audience with the king would have first ascended a steep ramp from the Lion Gate to the Citadel's summit. Here, they would have walked into the palatial complex through a grand entrance called the Propylon. Once inside, their gaze would immediately be drawn to the palace's main hall, a monumental area known as the Megaron. The vividly decorated Megaron, which glittered with precious objects and colorful frescoes in its heyday, was where the king would have received the traveler. If the king was feeling generous, he would have shared with the visitor the palace's most marvelous feature, its commanding and majestic view, which stretched from the plain of Argolis to the gleaming Aegean Sea. was in this palace where a legendary Mycenaean king like Agamemnon would have held court. According to Homer and other poets, Agamemnon led the Greeks in the sack of Troy. Stories say that he was a fearsome warrior on par with Achilles, but also an overly ambitious and arrogant ruler. He sacrificed his own daughter, Iphigenia, to convince Artemis to grant his ship's passage to Troy. After conquering the city, he returned to Mycenae with mounds of riches, and a Trojan named Cassandra as his concubine. Agamemnon's wife, Clytemnestra, was not pleased with her husband's sacrifice of their daughter. She plotted to murder her husband out of anger. The plot was successful, and, depending on the version of the story, Agamemnon was either murdered in his bath by Clytemnestra or killed by his cousin Aegisthus during a banquet.
You've completed the tour. I trust it was an eye-opening experience. Though it did not last, Mykene was a sort of precursor to what would eventually become the Greek civilization we know today. It's important we remember them, if only to avoid repeating their mistakes. Now, what else would you like to do? I appreciate your desire for more knowledge. Let us continue.
Welcome, friend, to this especially sacred part of the Olympian Sanctuary. My name is Varnavas, and I am a ship captain. Don't be fooled by my scarred eye. Though I've seen my share of combat, I mostly stick to trading these days. Well, trading and introducing visitors like you to wonderful sights like this. This place is practically vibrating with divine energy. I feel like if I look over my shoulder right now, Zeus will be staring back at me. The sanctuary of Olympia was dedicated to Zeus, king of the gods. It had close connections to the divine, as you will see very soon. I'll come find you when you're done, and we can talk about what you've learned.
Ο σως πατήρ ήταν έσχυντος κλέπτης ύπων, που όποτε απεπειράθη πολλές ονομία κάμιλων λέγον είναι περσικών υπάριων. Ποιούς διαφόρος εκεί. Επίουν και σε αλόκοτον βεβαιότητα. Ο εμούς αδελφός λέγει, πως μήματα την ατμοσφαίρη, εις το άκριο τιμίδι, το εμπόρου δίκτυου και μεταπράγει να πωλήσει.
This workshop was built for the renowned sculptor Phidias after his work on the Acropolis of Athens. In 435 BCE, Phidias came to Olympia to begin working on the great chryselephantine statue of Zeus. He died 5 years later, shortly after completing his masterpiece. This grand statue would become one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Phidias's workshop was located right next to the Temple of Zeus. Its structure has been well preserved, mostly owing to its conversion to a church in the 5th century CE. Archaeologists have also discovered lots of ancient materials in the surrounding area, such as casting molds and sculpting tools. The most famous artifact, however, is a cup bearing an inscription that aggressively states, "I belong to Phidias." On the fifth and final day of the Olympic Games, victors attended a ceremony where they were crowned with olive wreaths and showered in flowers. The crowns came from the sacred olive tree of Zeus, which was planted near the god's temple. A young boy trimmed the branches with a golden sickle before giving them to the Hellanodikai to turn into wreaths. After the crowning ceremony, it was time for great feasting and celebration.
Όσο πατήρι στα ανέσχυτος κλέψης ήλιο, από μια δουλειά πωλήσω μια κάμερα του λέγοντα είναι προδεσιμόνη πάρει. Πήγε πόρο, περιακό είναι κάθε πατρίσου, είναι έτοιμο με το άντρια. Αλλά όμως η πέταση.
Ο Έλληνας πολίτες, πολύ γυστήμων ευκαιρία στη χάνουση το βίο ισόρθη η γη.
Ήρθε το κρατός στο κυρία
Λέει και άσυγγλες, οι πόλοι τιμώνται, όμως μόνο με αγώνες σούτοι, το ανδρός Ανδρία, το πέτος αυτός διαρκαίους για πανταχού. Νεαρέ, υπερήφανος σε μια θεωρώνση.
Χάρη έχω το κρατή στο διή, ποιήσατε νερομαλαίο και ικανό.
Έκαμον το σάβι εξάψε.
Τι γίνεται?
Ουπούν, άκουε. Ήστα δει ότι η μήτρη μου έλεγε αδιαλεκτός ουδέποτε υποκύπτεις. Οψόμεθα, η Θεού πάβομεν.
Λαγρότη και λυκρία, δρυμονίκης και βρωτών ελπίς. Άκουσε.
Κάμονος βόστριχη τελειοφέρει. Σα άπλα. Μη φόβεσαι χει. Αλλά ανήσυχος είναι. Τι σε αισθιοφέρον ταύτα. Τι σε των στρατιωτών. Η φαρπαγέτα.
καλούμε σε
Θεόν πάτερ
μάγκα,
δε και η
πολυώνυμε.
κούρε δημάτορ, βοτριόκος.
Pelops was both a legendary Greek hero and the mythical founder of the Olympic Games. According to legend, Pelops fell in love with the beautiful Hippodamia. Her father, Oenomaus, the king of Pisa, disapproved of their union. Having once heard a prophecy that he would be killed by his son-in-law, Oenomaus was known to challenge his daughter's suitors to chariot races, killing them when he won. Still, Pelops was determined to win Hippodamia's heart. Before the race, he enlisted the help of Poseidon, who gave him a golden chariot with 4 winged horses. Pelops was able to win both the race and the hand of his beloved, while Oenomaus was dragged to death by his horses. The start of this famous race was depicted on the eastern pediment of the Temple of Zeus.
Τις χρεοδοτεί. Εγώ, έστι τούτο το δώρο ναυτής εκ τάφου.
Επικαλούμε σε μάκαρ, πολυώνυμε, πυρίπολε και τελετάρχα, ως Θεόν πάτερ δε και η
Και βρωτών ελπίς.
The Heraion was a temple dedicated to Hera. It is one of the oldest temples in the sanctuary, dating back to approximately 590 BCE. The structure included columns painted with images of women who won the Heraia, an athletic competition made up of running events. Every 4 years, 16 women were chosen to make a veil dedicated to Hera. These women also organized the competition, though they did not compete in it. The Heraia was unique for its focus on female athletes, in contrast to the male-exclusive Olympic Games.
Μεγαλώνυμε και πολυώνυμε, χθονία και θυροκτώνε φυλαγρώτη και λυτηρία, δρυμονίτης και βρωτών ελπίς, ελθέ.
Άκουσα καλούς καρπούς από γέης ειρήνην τερατήν, καλυπλόκαμον τη υγείαν και ο Θεά εύδρομε.
Hera was the goddess of women, marriage, family, and childbirth. She ruled Mount Olympus as Queen of the Gods, along with her husband and brother Zeus. Many mythological stories paint her as being annoyed at Zeus's many lovers and illegitimate offspring. In Greek art, Hera is usually depicted as matronly and regal, often wearing a crown or sitting on a throne. She is also sometimes seen holding a pomegranate, a symbol of both fertility and death. Hera's cult was very popular across Greece, and Olympia even minted her image on its coinage.
Μεγαλώνυμε και πολυώνυμε, χθονία και θυροκτώνε φυλαγρώτη και λυτηρία, δρυμονίτης και βρωτών.
Have εσμέν γουν. Ναι, Ως μικράντη τη μήνυμα.
Αναβιβάσατε το δάνεισμα και μέρος γέννητο του αυτοκρόν μελέτηση.
Πούλησε μηχάνη μου τη διοξία.
One of the highlights of the Olympic Games was a ceremony that took place on the third day of the festival. It began with a procession of athletes, ambassadors, Hellenodikai, and animals. The group made their way around the Altis until they arrived at the Temple of Zeus. Then the animals were brought in front of the altar of Zeus and offered as a sacrifice. This sacrifice was known as a hecatomb, a word that originally described the sacrifice of 100 oxen. During the hecatomb, the bones and legs of the animals were burned and carried to the top of a mound of ashes from previous sacrifices. Meanwhile, the meat of the animals was saved for a large banquet held later in the evening.
Ίστα έχω ευποδία και ημί καλήφωνος. Ο πατήρ μου έλεγε «Δίν με δίνε εις θέατρον». Ήθ τούτον εκπληκτικό.
Πού με ακούεις? Λέγωση η φυγάτη σου με τα φίλων συμμορφών.
So proud are those born to be Spartans. They'll ride through the fire they face. They carry the weight of Leonidas. The bravest they'll fight to the grave. The bravest they'll fight to the grave.
Συγχωρείτε σάφοροι, αλλά βάνουση, η αγρικία ύπους διαθέτει και πρώτη κλέβουση.
Αλήθως. Και πολλούς ειδικούς επίσης ο σκευοφύλακης μέρος.
Τι ερωτώ με, ή στρατολόγησης γέννητο.
Αποδήλωση του συμπολίτας αυτού. Καταδικαστέ ημίν ηθικέ αξίε το τραγωδοποιό. Τραγωδοποιός εστι κλέπτης ως δια των υποκριτών κλέπτη την χάριν του έθους. Κύκλωθεν των τραγωδών εξαμπόρων διηφαίνει μια ψευδομυθία ή της συνεπιφέρει πράξεις και παρεπόμενα.
The Olympic Games were dedicated to Zeus, and all the ceremonies and events were hosted in his honor. It is no surprise that the largest temple in the sanctuary was the Temple of Zeus. While most temples were restricted to priests, the Temple of Zeus welcomed all who visited Olympia. This openness was most likely meant to show off the gold and ivory statue of Zeus that stood within the temple's walls. The building also featured art depicting both versions of the Olympic festival's founding myth. The eastern pediment showed a scene from the legendary race between Pelops and Oinomaos. The temple's metapiece, meanwhile, showed the 12 labors of Heracles, the other mythical founder of the games.
Go on and explore, friend. I will meet you when you're ready.
Κατανοώ ότι θέλεις να συναντήσεις με εκεί.
Ναι, όμως διάφορες επιχείρησεις.
Zeus was the god of sky and thunder. and king of the Olympians. He ruled the world from his home on Mount Olympus. The child of Cronus the Titan, Zeus overthrew his father and cast the Titans out in a great battle known as the Titanomachy. He had children of his own with his wife Hera, including Ares, Hephaestus, Hebe, and Eileithyia. He also had many children without Hera, much to her consternation, but there are too many to list here. Zeus was believed to have control over the lives of mortals, as his many epithets attest to. For example, his title Horkios made him a keeper of oaths, while Xenios was the name conferred to him as a protector of hospitality. In Greek art, Zeus was usually depicted holding a thunderbolt and sitting on a throne, befitting his position as king. The Temple of Zeus was home to the chryselephantine statue of Zeus, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The statue, made of gold, ivory, and wood, was sculpted by the renowned artist Phidias. At 13 meters tall, it was as impressive looking as it was difficult to maintain. Oil was used to protect the wood and ivory from cracking and to prevent general decay. While the statue does not exist today, it was thankfully described by Pausanias in great detail, so its legacy lives on.
Μεγαλώνει και πολιώνει χθονία και θυροκτώνε φυλαχρώτη και λυτηρία. Βρυμονή της και πρωτών ελφούς. Ελφέ, η κατέση Καλώνει και πολιώνει χθονία και θυροκτώνε φυλαχρώτη και λυτηρία.
Και εν τη συγκρούση ταύτη, ως πετύχει κι άλλος, ο λογικός νους της.
Τι συνέβη μόλι? Επικαλούμεσαι, μάκαρπο. Ουχούν γρηγορείτε, παιδες. Σωτριόκος με οδηγέ των κομμών. Ελδέ, μακαρνίσι. Μάλλον το είμαι αυτό λέγομαι. Μάλλον αυτό. Λέγονε με αυτό.
εισάγω τη δύναξά μου. Ου φανίσομαι πάλι ούτε μη, ούτε ευρύσου στην
Μη θεύματα. Τούτο ούποτε συμβήσετε. Ως περός ου και εργάζεστε εδώ.
Οι χαρακτήρες εν τες τραγωδίες προαιρούνται το ύψος της διανοίας.
Πανιωτάτη διάφορη του Ανδρία.
Δάνεισμα επιδεύτερον και εν μέρος της επίδοσης.
Αλλά όμως η
Σχολείαν την αβεβαίως. Την ειν μη μήκιστα γέννητε τη σχόλη προπόδων έχεις.
Ήστα έχω ευποδία και ημικαλυφώνος. Ο πατήρ μου έμεινε δίν και δίν εξαιρέτω.
Πετώ το 2.
Μη οράσως πικραντικός επί των ημερών ημών ο οίκος σου επί μάλλον
καταμαλθακίζονται. Εκπλήσει αποφέρεται το πυρί του ατόμου.
Σπανιωτάτη τι αυτή η νίκη του Ανδρία.
το κρατήριο.
Άρους είναι το οποίο ισόθεοι γύρτεστε. Πολεμιστές που λέει γράφονται.
Τραγωδία εκλαμβάνει τα ιστορίες αυτών και χρείτε ταύτες τραγωδοποιού ένδικα.
Hello again! I hope you enjoyed your visit and feel a little bit closer to the gods. Well, as close as a mortal can get. Is there anything else you'd like to do? Of course! Follow me, my friend!
Greetings, Wanderer, and welcome to the Agora of Athens. I love this Agora. Where else could you find a common fish merchant and an extravagant jewelry seller within a few feet of each other? It's that kind of variety that makes city life so rich and exciting. The Agora is the beating heart of any Greek city. It is a place where all types of people may gather, from citizens and foreigners to magistrates and philosophers. All manner of business is conducted here, including political meetings, legal proceedings, and trade. When you finish exploring, come find me, and we can talk more. See you soon, Wanderer.
Μόνο τις βλάξ σε
τραγωδία διαφθείρει τους νέους και ούτε καταμαλφαγίσουμε. Εκπλήσει. Αποφέρεται το πυρί του ατόμου υποφάνει.
Μεγαλώνει με και πολιώνει με. Χθονία και θυροκτώνε, φυλαγρώτη και λυτηρία, δρυμονίτης και βρωτών ελπίς, ελθέη κατέχεις ωραίων δρυμούς.
Εστίνιασμός μυτιόμενος ή να κλονίσει την ισορροπία του πνεύματος. Τας γυναίκας διαπέχες με χώρο...
Η βρεκείμενον το της μητρός της περιφέρεως.
The Agora was the civic center of Athens, but it wasn't only frequented by politicians and city officials. The area housed a market where people could purchase food and other goods from merchants. It was also frequented by philosophers who used the public space to establish schools and pass on their teachings to students. Religion had its place as well. Temples dedicated to Hephaestus and Apollo were located in the Agora, along with the altar of the 12 gods and the monument of the eponymous heroes.
Ο νους εστί ως περ κύπελλον ο ευτύπης. Τι εισή,
Είναι ασταθή εν επιχείρημα, 2 η ώρη, και το επίσταστε. Σύμφημιση, αλίστας τραγωδίας, Σοφοκλής δείκνηση ημίν τινή τρόπο επιτυγχάνεται τούτο.
Εν μόνον πράγμα τελείται. Η μεταλόγου εξήγησης των πουλήσεων ζητήματος τεινός και εαναπόδραστες εκβάσεις έτοιμες λιπταία επιφήμη.
Η τραγωδία μια συναλλαγή και με το
Ψυχούχε, κούρε δημάτορ, βοτριόκοσμο διγέτων κομμών, ελθέ, μάκαρ, μίστες υβρίων και χαρημένος εή.
Δρυμονίτης και βρωτών ελπίς.
Μεγαλώνει και πολιώνει με.
Είναι σπέρα πόθεν ίσιν το φάρος. Διέχειν πυρσούς.
Τι σόναρ καθέδω.
Εσώμεθα εκεί την εσπέρα στην
Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαότινε, τεχνών μύτη, πολύολβε, πολυλίστη λυτήρα κακών, ιστρούσα βρωτών ψυχάς, σύθεα, στο σιρήνιν πολύολβο και κόρον διηγίαν, επεβόλους συνενώρες, γλαυκό, βρασίτεχνε, πολυλίστη βασίλεια,
The painted stoa, or stoa poikile, derived its name from the panel paintings on its wall. The paintings were created in the 5th century BCE by famous artists like Polygnotus and depicted Greek military victories like the Battle of Marathon. The stoa served as a public meeting place for citizens, but it was especially popular with philosophers who used the space to pass on their teachings. In 301 BCE, the philosopher Zeno of Kition chose the Stoa Poikile as the location for his school of philosophy, the appropriately dubbed Stoicism.
Και θεμελιώσετε τα δεδομένα και μετά
παριστάνε ο άλλος αυτόν. Τι άλλο έβρισκε η γνώση. Το κρέας γίγνεται φε, κάκιον και
Trade in the agora was supervised by magistrates. There were 5 agoranomoi who kept order in the market, controlled the quality of goods, and collected market dues. This provided revenue to the city and helped pay the magistrates and those in charge of maintaining order. The market benefited everyone. Customers bought what they needed, merchants made their living, and city officials received the money they needed to keep the wheels of democracy turning. The original Temple of Apollo Patrous was built around 535 BCE by Pisistratos, but was destroyed by the Persians during their invasion a few decades later. It long remained in ruins, except for the altar, which was left standing as a reminder of the Persian sacrilege. Eventually, a new temple was built in the 4th century BCE. Inside was a statue made by Euphranor, the same artist who painted in the Stoa of Zeus. The temple held special significance in Athens, as it was connected to the origin of the city's people. The name Patros, meaning fatherly, referenced the belief that Apollo was the father of Aeon, founder of the Aeonian Greeks, from whom all Athenians are descended.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά,
Μεγαλών είμαι και πολιών είμαι.
Πολύ ολβέ.
Φωνία και
Πολύ
χειροκτών.
ληστήρα κακών.
Ήκουεσαν ότι η θυγάτηρ μου εκληρονόμησε.
Όσοι ήθιστε τα πρικόα έσονται του ανδρός σας. Διαλέγομεν αν του το άλλο τι μάλλον. Ναι, εν θα δεσμέν.
Ο πληρών εστί.
Κληρονομήσεις της μητρός του.
Τι στασίο δεν εμμύτην εκληνήρης.
Γίγνεται, ποιος περσές, μία πίθουσα αναμένουσα τον νέο.
Κατανοώ. Αφρονή, Ήρης, Δίνας, καλώς έχεις.
The temple of Hephaistos overlooks the Agora from the Colonus Agoreus hill. Today, it is one of the best preserved temples in Greece, owing to its conversion to a church in the Middle Ages. But while this transformation preserved the structure, it also damaged the surrounding sculptures. The temple was dedicated not only to Hephaistos, the god of metallurgy, but also to Athena Ergane, goddess of arts and crafts. Nearly every part of the Hephaistion was lavishly decorated with depictions of famous mythological events, like the labors of Theseus. The Theseus scenes gave the temple the nickname Thesion, a name that lives on today as a city district in Athens.
They'll carry the weight of Leonidas. The bravest, they'll fight to the grave. The bravest, they'll fight to the grave.
The Bouleuterion was another building in the Agora that contributed to the democratic process. It housed the Athenian Council of Citizens, the Boulé. This council of 500 was composed of 50 members from each Greek tribe, all of whom served a one-year term. They were chosen by lot from among citizens over 30. Every month, one group of 50 was chosen to lead the Boulé's executive committee, the Prytaneis. The Prytaneis met every day of the month and called meetings of the full council in the Bouleuterion, where they spent their time discussing bills. The Prytaneon was one of the most important buildings in the Agora, as it was the headquarters of the Prytaneis. The Prytaneis was the executive committee of the Boulé, who ran the city's daily operations. The Prytaneis dined in the Prytaneon, and 17 of them slept on site to ensure there were always officials available to deal with emergencies. The Prytaneon also housed the official weights and measures of the city. The Fire of Hestia, which provided sacred fire for all public sacrifices, was also located there.
Είμαι τόσο ικανό.
Ουδή συνεργάσει. Δύσπερτο.
Ο νέας.
The Heliaia was the most important court in Athens and was presided over by a group of judges called Heliasts. Judging was a regular part of an Athenian citizen's life, with trials happening almost every day. Heliasts were chosen randomly based on two factors. First, that they were on the official list of 6,000 potential Heliasts. Second, that they were present at court on the day of the trial. A stipend of 2 obols was established by Pericles to compensate for the loss of work while on Heliast duty, and also to encourage participation in the judiciary process. In the Agora, an Athenian could buy and sell many different products. The permanent retail market was divided into sections according to the category of merchandise. Merchants and craftsmen who worked in the market could be citizens, foreigners, or even freed slaves. They sold everything from food and clothes to jewelry and slaves. With so much variety, competition was fierce, and that competition helped regulate the market's prices.
Πού καλυθές τούτο εστί?
Το κάλλι στον πάλε ποτέ κρέας.
Οι αγρότες φοβούνται μη φέρουσιν τα εμβολιασμών.
The Heliaia wasn't the only court in Athens. This other court was located next to the South Stoa. Historians believe it to be a court based on the discovery of a nearby box containing 7 bronze ballots. These ballots were used by jurors to give their verdicts. The reason trials were so common in Athens might have been related to their democratic regime, which promoted the individual's right to demand reparations for injustice. However, not all legal matters were settled in this fashion. If a claim was small enough, it was settled individually by a magistrate. Public trials were reserved for more serious offenses, such as murder, theft, and political crimes.
Και βρίσκεις καλό νυχτή, που και βρίσκεις καλό κρέας.
Σήμερα τι έκανες?
Κατανοώ ότι θέλεις να συνεχίσεις. Τους παραθείου αυτής. Όσοι
σαν ελεύθεροι πολίτε, άλλοτε πριν εξαναποδείξετε. Αναλογίζομαι απλώς ή ουκ έχω ψηφιστεί.
Ο Τότι!
Io papi!
The mint was where the city made its coinage. It is believed that Athens' mint was in the city's agora, as modern excavations have turned up small disc-shaped pieces of metal used to make coins. Much of the silver required for minting coinage came from the Lavrion silver mines. Athens was so dependent on the mines that when they lost them during the Peloponnesian War, the city was forced to melt down a gold statue of Athena to mint gold coins and avert a monetary crisis.
Ίσως ο Χείρος παρεβίασε την θύραν και εισήλθε ενώ ελάμβανον τα μοίρα. Ή ίσως ανέωκτον
You have now experienced the Agora, following in the footsteps of countless Athenians before you. I hope the trip has impressed upon you how important this place was to trade, politics, and law. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. As you wish. Let's see what else Greece has in store for you.
Here, visitor. and welcome to this sacred site. Delphi is an amazing place to visit if you're looking for information. I've come here on several occasions in search of answers to some particularly puzzling questions. And sometimes, I even found them. This is Delphi, home of the renowned Oracle. Greeks considered it the navel of the world. Pilgrims and kings journeyed here from all over Greece and beyond, seeking advice from Apollo through the voice of his interpreter, Pythia. During your visit, you will experience the sanctuary through a pilgrim's eye and discover how important oracles and prophecies were to the people of Greece. Now, go off and begin your pilgrimage. I will be waiting for you at the end of your visit.
On their journey to the Temple of Apollo, pilgrims walked this sacred path up Mount Parnassus. The summer sun beat down hot on their backs. Along the way, they took in the magnificent monuments, treasuries, and statues that adorned the road. These landmarks were tokens of people's reverence for the oracle's benevolence. All were dedicated to Apollo, and most were offered by cities to commemorate military victories. The monuments represented not only their donors' piety, but also their power and wealth. The sanctity of Delphi has endured to the present day, and visitors still take this very same route.
Αλλά ανήσυχος είναι. Τι σύστημα, τι έστειλη πίστης, ήμεν το σου το προσδετή.
Όμως γάμος εστί επιχείρησης περί αγάπης του τόπου.
Ως γέγη φάτε ορώνησε. Αληθές. Κατά το Odyssey θέλεις να συναντήσετε ή.
Αλλά όμως, αγαπάς
Εκλιπαρούμε του ελαίου σου δια την κρυφθείως προσφορά και του χειριδίου είμαι. Ήθε του το ευχαριστήσισε, νινή. Και ο ίνος η εκ του πατρώου αμπελώνας. Ποιος σου κίνδυνος? Σκηφικών εμπόρευμα, πρωτίστως σκηφικών. Περιδέρα εκλεκτά.
Ο Γέγησα ότι την άτυπο εκκληρονόμηση γης και δούλους παρατρύω
Μόνον όταν το επιχείρημα
Πώς
δομείται
ήρθε το έσοδο του ανδρός του.
κερδάνε εν ζήτημα, ανατρέχομεν εις τραγικούς της δομής ταύτης Ένεκεν, μάλλον εις Σοφοκλέα.
χαρακτήρες αντες τραγωδίες προαιρούνται του ύψους της διανοίας Ένεκεν. Τραγωδία εκλαμβάνει τας ιστορίας αυτών και χρείται ταύτας τραγωδοποιού Ένεκα. Ούτως ούκ αντιμιμείται τα σπουδαίας αξίας των ιστοριών τούτων. Τουναντίον, επιβιχάνεται τι παρίστανε το άλλο μυθοποιεί.
Αλ εις τας τραγωδίας Σοφοκλής δείκνηση ημίσινη τρόπο επιτυχάνεται τούτο.
Σαν ότι εντάδες verbum.
Πού δάνει όσοι υπάρχουν.
One of the most impressive dedications to Apollo came from the Cnidians, a Greek population that colonized the island of Lipari, north of Sicily. The story behind this dedication is notable. The Cnidians were at war with the Etruscans in the Tyrrhenian Sea. Seeking a good omen, The Cnidians consulted the Oracle, and following her advice, they successfully captured 20 enemy ships. To thank Apollo, they offered the god the same number of statues as ships seized.
Ο τρόπος, τα ψεύδι και το τίμημα διασημένουν συνδυνητικώς την αναρρυθμίσιμη λόγο. Το πίτας που δεσπόζει εν το αγίο του αιμού εγκεφάλου. Οθωρητή και το
είναι από σπόρο. Προείδηκα του πατρί σου.
Οι ξένες, πίστα όταν οι μύτηροι φάδες μεν βγουν.
Ναι, δεν φάδες μεν.
Άπασες, μίξε πάγονται. Αδύνατον εστί.
Αποφέρεται το πυρί του ατόπου υποθάλμου στο λέει.
Next to the Naxian Sphinx stood a simple structure to display offerings from the Athenians, most of which were spoils of war. In particular, these offerings, called ex-votos, were prows of sunken Persian ships. The Athenians built the portico after their naval victory over the Persians in 478 BCE.
Τραγωδία ανέρεσης. Εστιμιασμός μηδιόμενος συνακλονίσει την ισορροπία του πνεύματος. Τας γυναίκας διαπέχεστε πόροτα. Το αυτό και τους νέους διδάσκεστε τα επιμηχανήματα αυτής δίνα. Η τραγωδία διαφθείρει τους νέους και ούτε καταμαλθακίζουν.
Έκουεσαν ότι την κάτω εκκληρονόμησε νοικίων και δούλους παραθείων.
Λέει πως ιδέο άνθρωπος και ιδέες των δέων πράγμα.
Ενθάδες μεν γουν.
Ναι, ενθάδες.
Έλεγε ότι
Ήκουσα τους στρατιώτες κατακαίοντας τις κόμμες και κλέπτοντας άπαντα τα ζώα. Ήκουσα τους στρατιώτες.
Μεγαλώνει με θεά, αγλαώτη με τεχνών μύτης πολίων.
Μάκαρ πολιώνει με πυρίπολα και τελετάντα. Μάκαρ πολιώνει με πυρίπολα και τελετάντα.
Καταδικαστέα είναι η και αξία το τραγούδι. Η τραγωδία διαφθείρει τους νέους και ούτε καταμαλθακίζουν. Εκπλήσει από...
Once arriving before the temple, pilgrims wishing to consult the oracle had to first pay a tax. This tax gave them the initial right to approach the altar of Apollo and make an animal sacrifice to the god. But before proceeding to the Pythia, the preliminary ritual had to succeed. If the animal reacted favorably and showed signs of acceptance to the god, it was sacrificed, and the pilgrim would be allowed to enter the temple to question the Pythia.
Τραγωδία ανέρεσης εστί. Εστιμιασμός μητιόμενος συνακλονίσει την ισορροπία του πνεύματος. Τας γυναίκας διαπέχεστε πόρωτα, το αυτό και της δούλης. Στους νέους διδάσκεστε τα επιμηχανήματα αυτής την
At last we arrive at the Temple of Apollo, where the oracle relayed her prophecies. The temple was the final destination of those seeking an audience with the Pythia, and its appearance matched the majesty of its purpose. Atop its imposing columns, the structure's pediments displayed famous mythological scenes, sculpted by the renowned Greek artist Antenor. But as grand as the temple looked from the outside, it paled in comparison with what happened within.
Εκπλήσει, αποφέρεται το πυρί του ατόκου υποθάλπτων, λέγει. Οι χαρακτήρες εντεστραγωγής προαιρούνται του ύψους.
Δύσιν εκτιμήσε δεόντως το απροσδόκητον του πελάτου και τεθεμελιώστε τα δεδομένα και μετά...
Μετά διπαριστάνε το άλογο σε αυτόν. Τι άλλο έβρισκεται η γνώση.
Prophecies were given in the most restricted part of the temple, the Adyton, by a chaste woman known as the Pythia. Before delivering prophecies, she first purified herself with water, then burned laurel leaves and barley flour to begin the ritual. Finally, while seated on a tripod surrounded by offerings, the Pythia delivered Apollo's messages. Her words were often strange and indecipherable, and required further interpretation by the temple's priests. Despite much research, the exact causes of the oracle's behavior while prophesying are debated to this day. Myths say that while searching for an oracle who could impart their words to mortals, Apollo established a sanctuary on Mount Parnassos. Apollo took over this site by slaying its sinister guardian, the snake-like Pytho.
Λακκόβ, ευρυσίτεχνε, πολυλίστη βασίλεια, ω, εολόμορφε και αγιοτάτη. Επικαλούμεσαι, μάκαρ, πολυόνιμε, πύρη πόλη και τελετά, Θεόν, Πάτερ, επικαλούμεσαι, μάκαρ, πολυόνιμε, πόλη και τελετά, Θεόν, Πάτερ,
Your visit is complete. I hope you now understand how important this sanctuary was, and how it affected the lives of people both in the Greek world and beyond its borders. To be honest, I could speak about Delphi all day. But what would you like to do now? Of course. Follow me.
Greetings, wanderer, and welcome to the port of Piraeus. Piraeus is one of the busiest, most important ports in the Greek world. Money flows through here like a river that runs all the way to Athens. Acting as a port for Athens, Piraeus welcomed merchants, goods, and travelers from all over the world. It was a central part of Athens' economy, but it was also fortified enough to protect the city's considerable fleet. When you finish exploring the port, find me, and we will talk further.
Piraeus, a peninsula southwest of Athens, became the city's main port after the politician Themistocles encouraged the development of its natural harbors. These developments led to the gradual abandonment of the older harbor of Phaleron. Piraeus's fortifications were further developed by Cimon and Pericles, along with the long walls, which ensured goods could still be moved during sieges. Piraeus was divided into three main sectors: the military port, the Emporion, and the residential area. By the 5th century BCE, it had become not only Athens' naval headquarters, but also the mercantile center of the Mediterranean.